What's going on, guys? This is Raw Dog Sports. I am Mike. That is Evo. Oh, this is Tots. And we have got a banger today. We've got cornerbacks. We've got wide receivers. We've got a lot of them because there's a lot of these dudes that are good. Some that we have some questions about, maybe some character concerns with some. We'll talk about that. But there's other news as well going on inside the NFL. Potential trades happening. Sexy Dexy could be on the move. Shit's crazy. Evo, my man, welcome in. How you doing, brother?
I'm good. It's fun out here in Arizona. We're getting a little bit of cool weather, a little bit of hot weather, a little bit of mix of both. But enjoying what little bit of weather that's nice out here before getting ready to head up to Pittsburgh for the motherfucking draft. Because yeah, your boys are going to be there. Going to be fun being there live in person to watch all these players and picks that we were talking about get selected onto their new NFL careers. It's going to be fun to see some of the guys that we have as kind of our sleepers or people that we're fans of go to these teams and how everything shakes out. I'm excited to be up there and get to experience the whole thing that is the NFL draft from whichever perspective we get to see it from the fan perspective, from kind of the media perspective, whatever it is. I'm super excited for it and happy to be here and talking about wide receivers and cornerbacks because this draft gets talked bad about a lot of things, but these are two position groups that are really chalked with a lot of potential, a lot of guys who are going to be starting this league. So we got a lot of players to break down today.
Yeah, we do, man. I went through, I got 10 write-ups on receivers. I got 8 write-ups on corners. I could probably talk halfway intelligently about a few more of each one of those. So if you want, man, we can start hopping into prospects, or do you want to talk a little bit of what's going on in the NFL? I know that there's only a little bit of news in the Dexter Lawrence stuff. You want to talk that real quick before we?
Yeah. Let's get some of the normal news notes out of the way. One, non-NFL, fuck the Twins. If you didn't see, they had a fantastic broadcast recently where they're doing like a Sunday Night Football intro for the Twins, and it's just an empty fucking stadium.
Nobody's there. Fucking nobody.
Also, I think I might have sent the video to you. I can't remember, of some of my favorite podcasters from Score North talking about the Twins and how they had their opening day tweet where it's like a picture of like a sunrise at the stadium, and it's like all the comments from the top are like, fuck the Twins, sell the team, terrible owners, enjoy seeing all those empty seats because that's what it's going to be until you sell the team. All the bullshit that I've been fucking continuing to say, fuck the Polads. Oh, also, by the way, one of the Polads gave himself a promotion.
I was going to bring that up. He hired himself for a role inside the organization, so he
with baseball, like
with the baseball side.
Yeah, not like, oh, we're owners and we need to fucking fund it. It's like, oh, I need to be more involved in the baseball side of things because things aren't going good. Fucking cucks, unbelievable,
dude. It's crazy. I'm very happy that the Twins reside in my division. Chase DeLauder is back to hitting bombs. A little scare, but he's good. Guards are good. Got a walk off today. Baseball is well. I'm very happy with that. But Dexter Lawrence potentially being on the move is insane. Graydon, actually, as soon as the news came across my phone, Graydon texted me. He's like, hey, did you see this? And, man, it's going to be a haul if and when it happens. You have to think that it's for sure going to happen, maybe? Or is Harbaugh going to play hardball?
Yeah. I don't know. Like, look, Dexter Lawrence is probably within the top 3 best defensive tackles in the league and has been for a long time.
Right.
He is 28, about to be 29, which is, a little bit later on the edge of the age cliff that you would want to be. That being said, defensive tackles don't normally just fall off. He had a little bit of a worse year last year, especially if you're going off of PFF grades, but he was injured. It was a very bad system, a bad team, despite, me banging the table all year saying, like, this defense can be good. It has good pieces on it. I mean, Kayvon Thibodeau, Brian Burns, Abdul Carter, Sexy Dexy, like, you've got good core pieces there, and they didn't make good on any of the players that they have in putting out a good defense, which is why the defense, their defensive coordinator was fired pretty quick. And it was just a real ass team. Dexter Lawrence is a huge part of that. You don't see a guy who gets the sort of pressures and production as a nose tackle almost ever in the NFL. I think I retweeted today, like, from the one tech, that nose tech position, he has an insane amount of pressures compared to the next guy, which is Vita Vea. But I think that he beats Vita Vea out over like the past 4 or 5 years, like 5-fold in pressures that he gets. Nose tackles, we just went over defensive tackles in our positional breakdowns here for the NFL draft. You don't talk about those guys as having pass rush upside. That's what Dexter Lawrence brings in a guy who is ginormous. He is a run stuffer, a hole clogger, and he still gets the pressure. Like, an insane amount of pressure from a nose tackle is just something that you don't have to take the guy off the field, which is typically what you got to do with nose tackles. So he is absolutely someone that every team wants on their squad, and that would include the Giants. But he is right now, I think, like the 13th highest paid defensive tackle, which is not great when he is one of the best in the league. So I understand him wanting a little bit more money. But we had these issues just about 2 years ago where he kind of held out for more money. And I do have a little bit of an issue with guys who sign contracts and then midway through don't want to fulfill them and say, no, trade me. I want to get paid more. I understand it on one hand, especially from the player perspective side. But on the other hand, from the team's perspective, it's like we signed a contract, honor it. Like, and I get that. And I don't know what the Giants are going to do, because they really haven't come out and said, like, we're going to honor this trade request and see if there's something that we can get in return for it. But it puts his value kind of in a weird spot because, again, one of the best defensive tackles in the league, despite having a down year, that down year is a little bit of a chip for teams to say, maybe we don't want to pay as much for the guy. On the other hand, you look at, was it Quincy Williams that just got traded last year to Dallas for a 1 and a 3 in separate years, which is a pretty good haul. And Sexy Dexy is better. He's older, 2-1, which is also going to drop him a little bit. So apparently there was a report saying that a lot of the teams in the league were polled as to what they thought that his trade value would be, and it would be a second and some change. And at that rate, I think everybody should be in on it. Because 100%. While I do like some of the defensive tackles in this class, if you get any of these defensive tackles in the class in the second round, they are not going to produce like Dexter Lawrence. Their peak probably will never be what Dexter Lawrence's peak is right now in his career and for the next 2 to 3 years at least. So the value return is huge. The money is going to be prohibitive for a lot of people because we just had free agency. Most teams kind of blew their wad. They're going to have to shuffle things around. My Vikings were in on the Dexter Lawrence talk 2 years ago, 2024, when there was a possibility of him being traded, and we're serious about it. And we had the money to do it then. But now we're sitting with around $5 million cap space. We could not make the trade right now for him if we wanted to, because I believe this year he's due 14 or 18 million, something like that. We would have to clear more cap, whether that's through restructures and things like that, which we still have those levers to pull with guys like Brian O'Neill. But that still probably wouldn't be enough. We would probably have to trade Jonathan Grenard prior to making the trade for Dexter Lawrence. And then you have to re-sign him. And you can absolutely work that cap magic and push it into later years. But he's like, you look at Milton Williams, who is the highest paid defensive tackle, just got 25-ish mil a year. Not this offseason, but last offseason. Dexter Lawrence is going to command somewhere between that 25 to 30 mil a year range, probably. So you're talking about a huge hunk of money, which also kind of drops his trade value a little bit, because you are talking about a guy who is about to be 29 years old, coming off a down year. The team doesn't have a whole lot of leverage because he's come out with his agent to Schefter and said, I want to be traded. So the team's put in a hard space. It's a little bit of a rebuild, a soft rebuild going on there in New York, because they do have some pieces in place, but new head coach, there's going to be turnover. So it's an interesting spot to see how his value is going to be placed and if anyone's going to be willing to do it. Because if I'm the Giants and someone offers me a second and some change, I'm going to scoff at that initially. But if Dexter Lawrence actually is going to hold out, you might as well get value for him now before he's 30. And it's even tougher to trade him if he actually truly holds out. On the other hand as well, if the going rate starts at around a second and some change, there should be about 30 other franchises that are in on this. And
which is why
drive the economics up.
Yeah, which is why I can't believe that it's going to be a second round. Like, there's going to be at least one first rounder involved in this. I think there's potential there could be fucking two. Now, you bring up the age. Absolutely. That is prohibitive. The money, he's obviously going to want more money as well. So that sucks too. But when you look at the way interior pass rushers are being viewed now as a premier position, and this being the best one in the league, probably for the next few years still, somebody's going to be willing to pay possibly a king's ransom to go out and get this guy, especially if you're really close to winning a Super Bowl. Like, there are teams with that fuck them picks mentality now that can be like, you know what? He makes our defense really, really good, and that could be the linchpin that sends us to the fucking Super Bowl. I think that second round is insane that is the number that's being talked about. I think it should be and probably will be much, much higher than
that. I'm just trying to lay that groundwork for, if it's less, the reasons why it would be. That being said,
got you.
I am in on Dexter Lawrence being worth at least a first round pick. Like, when I saw the news, my immediate thought, it goes to my Vikings. Can we make this happen? Now, obviously, financially, we can't right now, but theoretically, it could, assuming that Jonathan Grenard trade and a restructure extension to Brian O'Neill happens. Not that I would want to see Jonathan Grenard go, but I would rather have Dexter Lawrence plus Andrew Van Ginkel and Dallas Turner as my edge rushers than no Dexter Lawrence, Jonathan Grenard, Andrew Van Ginkel, and Dallas Turner. That's, like, personally, I would do that. And then, so my initial thought is, okay, draft compensation. Would I give the 18 up for him? Yeah. Pick 18? Yeah, I would give that up for Dexter Lawrence right now, because I don't think you're getting as good of a player there, at least not in the short term, the next 2 years, we'll say. Because this draft does kind of not take a nosedive, but we're talking about, in my opinion, we have roughly 10, maybe 12 guys who are first round worthy in this draft. And then everyone else from picks 13 to about 70 are second round valuations for me. Maybe even a little bit more than that. There's like a lot of guys on here who are, it's like a heavy second round type of field draft with a lot of players here. So that's why I'm a huge proponent of find a way to trade back if you're the Vikings, because the more day two capital you can get, the more hits you're going to get on guys who are truly second round type values. But that being said, if we were to somehow trade pick 18 and retain our second round and third round picks, like, I'm kind of for that, because I don't know that you're getting that sort of value otherwise at 18 or anywhere else in the first round past pick probably 15 or so.
Yeah, you want 24? I'll fucking send you 24 for Dexter Lawrence, no problem. Yeah. We'll figure out tackle in the fucking second round.
I think we do start to limit ourselves here on what teams could possibly be going after him, because if next year, if we do get in the realm of looking at first round picks and things, or just next year's draft capital, next year's draft right now, and it's weird saying this, more than a year out from next year's draft, is just viewed so fucking well as being a wealth of talent, not just at the quarterback position, but overall, it is supposed to be a gold mine of a draft. And a year from now, we might be looking at this different and saying like, well, yeah, there's a decent crop of quarterbacks, but the rest of the draft is ass because all these guys went back for NIL money. That's definitely a possibility, but still, I think a lot of NFL GMs are going to be scared to move next year's draft capital to go after someone this year.
Agreed.
And next year's draft capital, you like, how many teams are going to need a fucking quarterback? I mean, with how many guys are coming out, there's going to be a bunch.
And there's going to be a lot of guys that are going to be first round graded that we could see possible record numbers of guys that go in the first round next year, the way this draft is being talked about now. And if that is the case, what happens to all these top tier offensive linemen and defenders and everybody else? They start fucking sliding down, and then you can get extremely good value later in next year's draft. So that's why next year's picks are so fucking valuable, because right now everybody is projecting super quarterback top heavy. And if it is super quarterback top heavy, everything else falls down below that, and then you're getting blue chip prospects much later than you would anticipate. So I agree with you that it would be tough to get next year's draft capital, but you would have to give at least a first round for Dexter.
Yeah, I think that ultimately the value ends up going to a first round this year, but then we're talking another mid-round pick, and whether that's this year or next year, I think is really going to be the linchpin. And like I said, I think it limits who's going to truly be willing to go after him to the teams that are able to say, we are locked in on our quarterback. We are very happy with our quarterback, and we don't expect to be anywhere near looking at one next year. So we can be a little bit more frivolous with our picks next year, knowing that we're not going to have to try to make some sort of silly package to move up and try and get a guy. And they're already going to be competing with a couple teams that look like, I mean, we're in April and we're looking like these guys are already in tank mode, whether it's the Cardinals, possibly the Dolphins. Like they're already, the Jets, they're semi-tank mode already, where they're like, yeah, we're not going to have to move our picks to go get the quarterback that we want. We're just going to kind of be there. So like, it's going to be an interesting situation with him. And that's kind of a sidebar to the draft overall, and something that I absolutely think people should be watching this offseason through the draft and even into this coming season is how little draft capital for 2027 gets moved. A lot of times teams are willing to move next year's picks in order to move around in the draft. And I think we're going to see a huge dip down in draft capital from 2027 being moved this offseason.
Yeah, I agree, man. We've already kind of seen that slow a little bit, and I can't imagine on draft night people are going to be giving up next year's picks either. So, all right, brother. Well, talking about the draft, let's talk about some dudes who are going to get drafted here within the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, absolutely. So tonight we are going to be going over cornerbacks and wide receivers. Again, two groups, like positional groups in this class that I think are just chocked full of talent here. We'll start off over on the defensive side of the ball because that's what I just happen to have up on the PFF here. And we're going to hear a lot of names that are going to be talked about as first and second round picks here very quickly. The top two that you can see here on PFF, Mansoor Delane and Jermod McCoy. Jermod McCoy was originally kind of considered the top corner in this draft, but was coming off of a bad knee injury, a torn ACL, which he hurt while working out, I believe, prior to the season. So not even an on-field issue, which kind of helped raise Mansoor Delane a little bit. So let's go ahead and get into Delane from LSU here, who does look to be the top, if not number 2 cornerback in this draft class, and someone that gets talked about quite often in the top 15.
Yeah, I think he's probably the best cornerback in this class, and it's nothing against McCoy, but I have very serious concerns still, even though I know that he just killed it at his pro day. But Mansoor Delane is fucking really good, has been good, man. He's a really good cover corner, best when he can get his hands on the receiver. He is strong, uses his hands well, but does get a little grabby, can play man at elite level and zone at a very high level. He's got a little bit of the injury history, but still played well and battled through it. Had that core muscle injury, but I mean, I don't think he missed the game this year. He was fucking awesome. Like, was seldomly targeted because he was always in good position. Like, Mansoor Delane was a fucking dog. I understand why he got elevated to the CB1 in this draft, especially considering McCoy hasn't done shit until a few days ago at his pro day.
Yeah, Delane to me he's prototypical size for an outside corner. He does everything at least good, if not great, as far as playing in zone or man. The knock on him a little bit is that, like, we really saw this boost in production this year where he was a premier guy playing at a premier school. And so you have a little bit more limited production over the wealth of his time in college. That being said, the tape at LSU this year was really fucking good. And he just wasn't targeted that often. You can see he didn't allow a single touchdown all year. I think it's a little bit more of LSU's system, but they like to play and keep everything a little bit in front of them. And I think he'll fit in better with like a quarters look, but he's quick to bail out. He's quick to bail out on things and fall back. And I believe it's LSU system that likes to have that little bit of underneath help. That's not to say that he can't be a little bit more of that lockdown guy on an island on his own at the pro level. But if there's any sort of a knock, that's what I have on him. But I think that he's one of these, like, as far as the cornerbacks go, safest prospect in this class. And that's only because the next guy that we're going to be talking about here, Jermod McCoy, is safe in every other aspect except for his health. You brought it up. He didn't do anything this last year. He didn't do anything at the combine. And it wasn't until his pro day recently that we actually got to see him. But the fact that he's out there running in the 4.3s again, I think shook a lot of the concerns off of this guy. I know it did for me. Mm-hmm. I try to not have things like the combine and stuff move me too much on a guy. Like, the truth is that Jermod McCoy's film from 2024 and earlier was just so goddamn good that it makes you feel like, man, this is a guy that we should possibly bet on. It'll be interesting to see if he ends up going above Mansoor Delane, because I think that that's kind of the talk right now, is that these guys, it depends on if someone wants to gamble on the health. ACLs aren't what they used to be. Sometimes guys don't come back as the same player, but the fact that we were able to see him go out there and run a 4.3 shows that maybe he is just really keeping everything close to the chest, not trying to push himself too far until he's ready to go, because the time that he had his injury to now is longer than it normally takes for guys to get back out there and start doing stuff. So maybe he is just playing it safe, trying to be as careful as possible to allow himself to recover, which I appreciate if I'm a team that is looking to draft him. We don't get inside knowledge of all the medicals for these players, but the teams do. And if the medicals check out, that 2024 tape was so good that I feel like it is going to push teams where this guy could be a top 15 pick easily.
Yeah, so I'll just start with my write-up. This guy terrifies me. Hasn't played, worked out, or done much of anything since the beginning of 2025 until his pro day, where he looked fantastic. He was cleared to play and work out, but chose not to. I'm not going to question his motives, but with his pro day performance, he clearly made a good decision for himself. But some people may raise some eyebrows. As a player, when he was on the field, he was spectacular. That's exactly what you said. Like, he would, when you go back and look, he was really good. But you have the injury. Apparently, McShay tweeted out like a week ago that he was cleared during the season and decided not to play. I don't know if that is true from McShay. I'm not sure where he got that information from, but I trust Todd McShay to track down his sources. So that leaves me wondering why. Now, you bring up the 40 time. Good number, absolutely. But when I think of a guy who tore an ACL, I'm not necessarily worried about his straight line speed as much as I am worried about his change of direction. So, Jermod McCoy, if everything checks out, will be fantastic. But the medicals have me concerned. And like, if he was cleared, why didn't he come back? So that's all I got, man. Like, I get nothing to really knock on the player.
Yeah, that's it's going to be interesting with, obviously one of these top cornerback prospects that we're going to talk about, and then we also have a somewhat similar medical concern about one of the wide receivers that we're going to go over here in a little bit. That's looked at the top end of the draft. Except for I have two different feelings about them. Like I do feel a lot more comfortable with McCoy now than I did back at the combine when he decided to not work out. That really irked me and bothered me and scared the shit out of me. And I feel a lot more comfortable with it now, and maybe I shouldn't. But again, with the talent and the drop off that happens with talent in this draft class, when you're talking about pick 15 or later in the first round, you're going to have some knocks on a guy like Jermod McCoy, where if he had been healthy, played all of 2025, he easily could have been one of those 2 to 3 blue chip guys in this class with how good that tape was from the year prior. Avieon Terrell, another interesting guy who gets talked about a lot here in the first round. Interesting to get your thoughts on this Clemson Tiger, brother of AJ Terrell, who plays for the Falcons.
Yeah. Another really good cover corner, but won't tackle like Delane. Can play press man and good in zone. He's on the smaller side, though, at 5'11", 180 pounds, so he may end up working in the slot a lot, where he took some more snaps this year. Ball skills are good, and he is opportunistic when he's looking to rip the ball out. He's not necessarily a great tackler, and he needs to get stronger. One thing that you kind of see is that he is kind of sneaky. He comes in there and is ripping at the ball. He's not going to be a guy that flies in, punches the ball out, and makes a bunch of tackles. He is good in coverage, and he's a corner that finds his spots where he can. I like him as a player. I think he is a step below Delane, and McCoy, if he's healthy, is probably the best. But I have concerns. So Terrell's a good player. I think where you see him mocked, later in the first round is probably around the right area. But what do you got on Terrell?
I really like Avieon Terrell a lot. I think he's a better tackler than what you were giving him credit for. Okay. I see some Devin Witherspoon in him. They're about the same size. Like, that's the thing with Terrell, is he gets talked about as being small, and he's 5'11", 180. I think he waiting at 188 at the combine or something like that, which is it's 5'11" and some change. And that was just about what Devon Witherspoon had as far as his measurables. I see a bit of Witherspoon and Trent McDuffie in this guy. He's not as long as you would like, but he isn't necessarily small, in my opinion. A guy who some people like to say, maybe he should fit more into the slot. I think he can play boundary. I think he can play it better. I think he's going to be better than AJ Terrell. I feel like he is maybe a lower ceiling, but not terribly low. I think he'd be a number one cornerback on a team, compared to, lower ceiling compared to McCoy or Delane, but a guy who absolutely is worth a first round pick. And we saw McDuffie fall a little bit in his draft class, but I think redrafting people would be like, no, he should be one of those top guys. Avieon Terrell, I think we could look back and be like, no, he absolutely should have been right there in the conversation with a McCoy and a Delane when it's all said and done. A guy that I'm a fan of. I'd be happy with my Vikings picking later in the draft if we ended up going that route.
Okay. All right. You think 23 is the right rank, right in that range, or do you think that's a little high?
I think that's probably right about the right rank for him. I'm happy with that.
Okay. All right. You ready to move on to Colton Hood?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, man. So I did not love what I saw out of him at the Senior Bowl. He has good size and speed, but he does not move well laterally. Struggles to stay with receivers on in breakers and comebacks during one-on-ones. Feels like a strictly zone corner to me. He does a really good job of jamming, but if he misses, he loses the rep. Does a good job running with receivers and getting in the pocket on deep balls, though. When I was watching at Senior Bowl, there were dudes that were at certain points where we're just wanting wide the fuck open in the team. And I was like, who? Everybody's playing man. Who the fuck's guy is that? A lot of the times, it ended up being Colton Hood's guy. Him and Nick Minosin had really tough time at Senior Bowl. So the tape is probably better, but what I saw at Senior Bowl, it turned me off on Colton Hood quite a bit. I think he's got a lot of like physical traits, but I don't know that he's ready to play corner at the NFL level.
Yeah, I like his height, weight, speed, size, all that stuff. He was the biggest beneficiary of McCoy going down. But I think that he has some flashes where he shows like he can be a real good cornerback, but he's not there yet. ACL injury earlier on in his career kind of stunted his development a little bit. This is a guy that if I'm drafting him, it's second round for me and maybe mid-second round because I'm not looking to play him right away. Like I'm hoping that I'm not having to start him right away. The guy needs at least a year of development in an NFL system before you really start seeing him on the field a whole lot. And to me, is a true outside corner. He's not a guy that's going to rotate in a ton, especially year one. So if you're in a situation where you're drafting him, hoping to play him right away, I'm not on board for that. And that typically will drop a guy a little bit further in the draft because second round, you don't pick a lot of guys that you're hoping to sit and develop. You want them to kind of be a contributor earlier on. So that drops him a little bit for me, but I do like the projection on him. Just needs time to develop in an NFL room.
Yeah. I agree, man. He's not going to be able to step in and play right away, in my opinion. Which is very much the same way I feel about Brandon Cisse. So really good athlete, but kind of an average football player right now. He hasn't played a lot of meaningful football. He's young, athletic, and has all the requisite size to play at the NFL level, but I don't know that he's ready to play there yet. With some high-level coaching, he could be a top-level corner, but he just hasn't had the opportunity to play a lot. So because of that, I think he's incredibly raw. I think he could be very good. I just don't think he could be very good immediately. He's another guy that needs some seasoning because his snap count is incredibly low. Like for running backs, that's great. For corners, I want him to have some reps out there so he's seen a lot of guys run routes. And Cisse hasn't seen that yet. So I think he will be good, but not right away.
Yeah, it's athleticism, size, and traits with him that are very raw and undefined. He isn't great on, especially over the top. Like you'll beat him over the top. He's got trouble tracking the ball. Not a great 50-50 type ball guy. But the tools to me are there. It's just another guy that needs some development, which kind of places him there in that second round, which I think we got some guys coming up who also are going to be second rounders that I think, this guy can probably jump in right away, especially here with a D'Angelo Pons for me.
Yeah, I love D'Angelo Pons. Do you want to go first or do you want me to go?
Sure, yeah. D'Angelo Pons, this is a true guy who has some size limitations. You see 5'9" there, 173. The thing is that, like, you watch the tape, and the guy is a fucking baller. Everything he puts on tape screams first-round cornerback to me. And he played on the outside as a guy who was 5'9", 173, and it didn't look like it was limiting to him. I just think that it is going to be limiting to him probably in the NFL to a point. But, like, how fucking good of a player he was in college and how good he was on tape, I feel like he's going to feel like such a steal to a team in the second round. And it's just inevitable that he's going to fall to that second round because of the size. Yep. Super productive, like dog mentality, always in on the play, extremely feisty. I love everything about him. I just wish it was obviously in a little bit of a bigger frame. but at the same time, like it excites me that you're going to get essentially like first round talent probably in the second round because he was just so damn productive there at Indiana.
And he wasn't just productive at Indiana. He was productive his entire college career because he started at James Madison with Cignetti and then followed Cignetti to Indiana. So he played at a lower competition, moved up in competition, was fucking good there too. He's kind of the opposite of Cisse. He's really well polished and a smart corner with a ton of starting experience playing for Cignetti at James Madison and in Indiana. It's like I just said that. But the measurables start to worry you. Not the testing numbers. Those are fine. And his vertical shows he's incredibly explosive, but he's 5'9", 173 pounds. He's incredible in zone coverage when he can read a quarterback and got him a pick 6 in the semifinals. He needs to get stronger, and he probably needs to add a little bit more weight. It's just the size. The only knock that I have on D'Angelo Pons is the size. That is literally the only thing. If he were 6 foot and 195 pounds, this is cornerback 1 in the class.
Yeah. And to me, it's not like the size, the size obviously is going to limit him to some extent with tackling and stuff like that, but he doesn't know he's that size. It doesn't seem like he knows. He's a fucking, like I said, a dog. He's in there on run fits and things like that. He doesn't care. He's out there acting like he's a 6'2", 215-pound corner, even though he's not. I see Antoine Winfield Sr. in him, the way that, because same thing, small dude, but he would bring the hammer. Even if he shouldn't or couldn't, he would try. And like that's the type of player that I want on my team. He's just going to be such a gem for someone in the second round, which is weird to say, because second round picks aren't usually seen as gems. They're obviously get taken in the second for a reason because they're good. It's just unfortunate that he's a little bit shorter.
Yeah, that is the only knock on D'Angelo Pons is the size.
All righty. Next up here, Chris Johnson out of San Diego.
All right, so on Chris Johnson, he's an outside corner that does a great job staying with the receivers. And times his knockdowns really well. Doesn't have a lot of ball production and is very content with just knocking it down. He's a good tackler and a good athlete, and he needs to get stronger. He's a CB2. He's going to show up. He's going to do his job. Doesn't create much in terms of turnovers and things like that, but he's a really good cover guy. Like that's this profile. I don't think that he's a 1, but he can come in and play right away on the outside of somebody who is a 1. So Chris Johnson, good player. Second round is the right range for me.
Yeah, I love him in a zone scheme. Obviously, you can see those zone coverage grades are really good. Not a guy that comes up and plays press. I think that his floor is probably a good number 2. Yeah, you could get more out of him, and he could possibly elevate to that 1. But I think that as a second round pick, you feel safe with grabbing him and knowing that he's going to, within a year or two, be an extremely solid number 2 cornerback, outside cornerback in the NFL. Plenty of reps, plenty of production there at San Diego. You can see just based off that last year's PFF grade, did a really good job locking down his side of the ball. So a solid guy who this is one that I think can step in pretty quick in the second round. Just a little bit more of a limited ceiling on him.
I agree. So I have a group of guys. This next group of guys, I don't have much of anything on. My next guy is going to be way later down the line, but I could talk about a couple of these guys. You have stuff on Abney and Scott, though, right?
Yeah, and I'll kind of keep this relatively quick. Abney, even though he's got a little bit better size, I still feel like he's a little bit more of a zone and a slot guy. He's going to feel better in the slot. Also, plenty of production and plenty of reps there at Arizona State. A guy who's going to be able to fit in pretty early on. Again, a little bit limited ceiling, but a solid guy who could be a starting slot corner or possibly a number 2 in the NFL. Keionte Scott, old. That's my biggest knock on Keionte Scott is that he's about to be 25 years old, but very, very productive there at the U. A guy who I think is someone that's going to also step in right away, probably gives you number 2 production and really good in run fits as well. Traydan Stukes here, I don't see him as a corner. another guy who's a little bit older, but height, weight, speed, measurables guy, bigger at 6'2", 200, and looks like he's rocked up. He's going to be more of the nickel safety type, and PFF has him rated here in the cornerbacks, but I think ultimately he's going to fit best as a safety, box safety, down towards the line and things like that a little more, or in the nickel in the NFL. Someone who I think right now at PFF has him ranked as 61. I think this guy second, maybe early third round pick based off of some of the stuff that he's done recently. Davison Igbinosun.
Listen, I loved him at Ohio State, but God, he looked really bad at Senior Bowl. He looked very similar to Colton Hood. Couldn't change direction to save his life, man. Receiver snapped it off at the top of the route, and he is still running towards the end zone. He's got to improve the technique, but size, speed, all that shit's there.
Yeah, and that's I feel like Igbinosun's a guy who's going to be more third, fourth round because he can come in. You can elevate him in a couple years to possibly a number 2 outside corner in a press man scheme, but not someone that I'm looking for getting returns right away on it by any means. And then next up here, Chandler Rivers, a guy that I believe that you wanted to speak on.
Yeah, I do have a write-up on Chandler Rivers. So there's another undersized corner at 5'9.5". That will probably be typecast as a slot corner. Played a shitload of football at Duke. Has really good technique and is a good athlete, which is good because he also has tiny little T-Rex arms. He's not a great tackler, but it's not because he doesn't try. He just isn't quite big enough and doesn't have the frame. This is very similar to a guy in like a D'Angelo Pons, just maybe a D'Angelo Pons light. If you're looking for a slot guy later, day 3 type, Chandler Rivers is a guy that I really like. I also enjoyed listening to him talk at his media avail. So maybe there's a little bit of bias there, but I mean, you can go look at the tape. He played a lot of fucking football at Duke, and it all looks pretty damn good.
Yeah, a solid guy, but and he played a shitload on the outside at Duke because he was best cornerback there. But in the NFL, I think his best fit is there in the slot. He is going to give up a decent amount of receptions, but he's pretty much locking guys down where they're not getting a whole lot after the catch, and it's going to be more underneath stuff. Who else did you want to?
That was my last write-up.
All right. Dalen Everett. I like this guy a lot. I think he's a perfect fit for Brian Flores' scheme. I think that he's kind of criminally underrated because he's not a flashy name right now, but I actually like him better than some of the guys that we talked about as far as his ability to come in and be productive as a number 2 cornerback earlier on in his career. I like him a little bit better than Keith Abney or even who's the other guy that we talked about here, Chris Johnson. I think that and Cisse and Hood. I kind of like Dalen Everett in the right scheme to fit in as an outside corner earlier on. Pretty productive there at Georgia. Malik Muhammad, a guy who I still think fits a little bit better as a slot, but he played a lot of outside corner at Texas and can be a productive guy that you'll get round 3, 4, 5, who's pretty solid that I'm a fan of. And then one guy that I will bring up here, other than Cardio Davis, who's a great name, and Avieon Prysox, another great name. The cornerback.
Avieon Prysox is dude. His body is so weird. He's so long.
Yeah. But a guy that actually isn't on the PFF board. I had heard that he was going to be added to the PFF board before PFF fucked up and let all their talent go. A guy at Georgia Tech named Amari Harvey. All right, Amari Harvey, 5'11", 185. This guy is a hit stick cornerback. Like, he loves to bring the lumber. He might get you some penalties from bringing the lumber too much, but he's not big enough to play like a safety role or anything like that. He's a little bit tight in the hips, but very physical on the route. Loves to be in on the play. I think he's going to be possibly as high as the 4th round, even though he's not listed on these PFF boards, which some people will be like, who the fuck is this guy? Because they only look at the PFF stuff. But I think he could go as high as the 4th round and anywhere after that. He's not going to be your prototypical lockdown corner. He's going to be solid. But I love him in run fits. I love the fact that he wants to get up there and knock some teeth out. So a name to watch for in day 3, Mari Harvey.
All right. Evo coming in here with some deep cuts. Guy's not even on PFF's big board.
No, sir. He's slowly making it on some of the other mock draft databases out there, though.
Which are growing more and more by the day as PFF falls apart.
All right. Well, that takes us to the wide receivers, an interesting group where, again, lots of talent. I think it is even probably more talented than that cornerback group.
Yeah.
You're finding solid contributors, possibly even into day 3 out of this cornerback group. But we'll go ahead and start off with Carnell Tate, who I know you absolutely love. I love him too. I feel like I see Chris Carter in this dude. So go ahead and give us your breakdown of Carnell Tate.
So he's a national champion and excellent jump ball winner. 85% of contested catch rate and a great route runner. Fluid in and out of breaks and rarely pulls up early to give the defender a chance to react. Strong hands and does a really good job keeping his hands off during keeping the defender's hands off during the route. At 195, you'd like to see him maybe put on a little bit more weight, but I think an NFL diet plan and the weight room should help him there. And he is a capable blocker. Carnell Tate is a dog. He needs to be a Cleveland Brown. He actually was just in a space with our friends OTC the other night. I got to hop in there and listen to him a little bit. Great kid, man. I want this kid in Cleveland really fucking bad. I think he is the best receiver in this class. Maybe I'm a homer. I don't care. I keep hearing everybody say, second best receiver on his team. Yeah, every fucking receiver in this group would have been the second best receiver on that goddamn team because Jeremiah Smith is the best receiver in the country and has been since he stepped on the field as a freshman. That shouldn't be a knock on Carnell Tate. And every time I hear somebody say that, it just blows my fucking mind how stupid a Tate could be. Why would it matter that he's the second best receiver on his team when that kid, who's the number 1, is better than everybody else as well? That's not a knock. That's just waiting for Jeremiah Smith. So I want Carnell Tate in Cleveland. I think he's going to be awesome.
Yeah, I don't think too many teams would complain if T. Higgins was their number 1 receiver on their team. But no. T. Higgins is the number 2 on his team when you have Jamar Chase. And that's kind of the situation that I felt there at Ohio State. Carnell Tate has the capability of being a premier number 1 receiver, does everything well, good in the run, obviously good in the receiving game. My biggest fear, I guess, is you look at that last game, that national championship versus Miami, like
the semifinal?
Your semifinal versus Miami, and he just kind of disappeared a little bit more. I don't like that, but also you're not getting the ball thrown to you.
I think that was a little bit more of the quarterback being rattled in that game, more like so than Carnell, maybe.
What are you going to do? But he is, if not the best wide receiver in this class, I feel like he's the safest one to be taken as the top guy. Super, super solid. Can't say a whole lot else other than 0% drop rate. Chris Carter, great hands. Carnell Tate, great fucking hands.
Great fucking hands.
I think he's a fantastic prospect, and someone's going to love having him.
Cleveland at 6.
Very possible.
I fucking hope so, bro.
Right. Makai Lemon, is he just a Amon-Ra St. Brown clone or an Antonio Brown clone?
Man. So one of those names comes up in here. He's a really savvy route runner and can operate wide or from the slot, with the slot being his better option due to a little bit of lack of size. He's built just like Amon-Ra St. Brown, but he is not as strong. Needs to improve there to keep from getting redirected. He's a really good player, but you have to have some questions and concerns about what transpired at the Combine during his media availability, where he looked higher than draft balls. Turn on tape, kid pops fucking everywhere. Good football player. Really good football player. I don't know. I don't think he's Amon-Ra St. Brown. And I think that he hurt himself with what happened at the Combine. I don't know that I can say too much bad about him as a football player other than the fact that he needs to get stronger so he isn't so easily rerouted. But that's about it.
Yeah. Look, you went on a little bit of a spiel earlier there with Carnell Tate and how he's the second best receiver on his team with Jeremiah Smith being there and him being the best receiver in the country. Well, Makai Lemon actually won the award for best receiver in the country. He won the Blitnikoff this last year, and there's a reason why. He's really, really fucking good, despite his size. There's not a whole lot to say there other than the character stuff scares me a little bit. Like, I think a lot of teams, if not most teams, are just kind of overlooking that as like, this is a wide receiver and he's a little bit weird, which is not abnormal.
Right.
Because if you're getting that sort of production on the field, who gives a shit? Like, he's electric.
So good, dude.
Outstanding. All right. Interesting guy here in Jordyn Tyson.
Yeah.
Injury prone is the main thing that we get here with Jordyn Tyson. This is the guy that I was kind of alluding to, closer to a Jermod McCoy on that cornerback side. Jordyn Tyson, extremely productive. You love the height, weight, speed for him. Looks like if you didn't have any injuries, maybe he's the best wide receiver in this class.
Yeah, probably.
But then you have injuries, all sorts of different injuries, not like re-injuring the same leg over and over again type thing. Though I believe he has a hamstring injury right now, which is the same leg as the injury that he had, the knee issue. And then I think it was a shoulder or a collarbone previous to that. So the injury prone stigma sticks with this guy, Jordyn Tyson.
Yeah.
And that has to play a huge part of your eval with him. That being said, I watched the film that he does have, and I see Justin Jefferson. Like,
he's so good, dude.
Like Justin Jefferson to me when he's on the field. Some guys are injury prone. Some guys just have some bad luck with injuries. Which is it with Jordyn Tyson? If the medicals, if you're like, this guy isn't injury prone, he just had some bad luck, and then holy shit, you could be getting another version of Justin Jefferson with the way that he runs routes. Like, he has the same sort of smooth fluidity with his route running and fantastic hands that I see from Justin Jefferson on a daily basis when he's out there for my Vikings. And so to be able to see a Jordyn Tyson falling now, because he's pretty precipitously falling into the later part of the first round, you could be looking at a huge value here if he's able to stay in the field.
Yeah. So high-level receiver with some injury concerns. He's a good route runner and blocker. Hines Ward probably helped him with that. By the way, that's who his just position coach was. He is exceptional after the catch. You brought up the Jamar Chase comp, and that's where I see it, is when the ball's in their hands after the catch. They look fucking the same running down the field. Really good at top of his routes to create separation. Has the size to play any receiver spot, but can he stay healthy? That is really the only question mark that I have. Health. That's it. That is the only thing I have concerns with.
Yeah. Which, again, looking at this from a Vikings only view, if we go BPA and he's there at pick 18, like, I'm not going to be sad if we take him.
I'm sure you're
because
not.
If he stays healthy, playing in a dome a big part of the year, like, 2 Justin Jeffersons on the field, I'll fucking take that any day of the week.
Do you guys have natural grass in that dome? Because that's probably not good for him if you guys have
a weird synthetic.
Okay.
It's like trying to be as natural as possible,
but it's not.
But it's not. All right. Omar Cooper Jr., someone that has a lot of varying thoughts on from different people. Sometimes viewed as the second best receiver on his team with the Hoosiers. Sometimes, obviously, when it came down to the national championship game, extremely important. Very good. A little bit undersized. An interesting prospect where some people have him as like the number 1, 2 on their board. Some people have him as like the number 5 guy on their board. I'm interested to see where you're at with Omar Cooper Jr.
I mean, I don't think he's a first rounder, but I think he's a good receiver, good with the ball in his hands, and was a big time competitor for the Hoosiers. Can break tackles and keep going, but struggles to create separation. Tested really well at the combine, and the crowd loved him. Is he Deebo Samuel or is he Xavier Legette? Kind of hard to say that Indiana Hoosier team was so fucking well coached. Like they had him in perfect positions to utilize him and take advantage of what he does well, because he's very similar in that like Deebo Samuel kind of build where you can use him gadget style, but there's also a little bit of bust potential that comes with that, as we saw what's kind of happening right now with Xavier Legette in Carolina. So I think he's got potential, but there are some holes in the game here for sure.
Yeah, I think that he absolutely could go in the first round, but I don't think he's a first round talent. I think he's safer, especially from an injury prognosis, than a guy like Jordyn Tyson. And that could cause him to go above a guy like Jordyn Tyson. But I don't think that he'll ever reach the high-end ceiling potential of a Jordyn Tyson. Omar Cooper, to me, does feel a little bit more, not gadgety. I don't think that's the right term, but I do think that his production is possibly similar to that of a Deebo Samuels. So he's a good guy. I don't think he'll ever be a number one on a team. I think that he could be a pretty solid, fun number two. And I do think that even though he's much lower on like the PFF board, I like an Elijah Surratt as a true outside receiver better than an Omar Cooper. And I think that over the year, Surratt was a more dependable receiver than Omar Cooper was. But Omar Cooper flashed in big moments and has a little bit more versatility overall as a receiver than a Surratt, which kind of raises him up some, and someone might bite on him there in the first round.
That's a big leap for me, but somebody will probably do it, man. There's a lot of good receivers in this class.
All right. A couple guys here in Denzel Boston and Casey Concepcion who get talked about as first round guys, but not always making it into the first round, sometimes towards the back end or falling into the second round. What's your thought on Denzel Boston here? One of the bigger receivers in the draft, a true X receiver, but someone who unfortunately gets comped to a Florida State receiver that is playing for the Buffalo Bills. And I think that is very unfair to him. What are your thoughts here on Denzel Boston? You're going to comp him to him, aren't you?
Yes. He's a big receiver at 6'4", 210 pounds, and is good at winning deep. He is a big-time red zone threat and has strong hands. Okay, as a route runner and doesn't separate well. I have some concerns that there are shades of Keon Coleman in there. He has all the physical measurables you want, but I don't know that he will win consistent enough to be anything more than a wide receiver 2 with deep ball upside. I'm not saying he's Keon Coleman, but there are some of the similar concerns that people have with Keon Coleman and Denzel Boston. I think Denzel Boston is a little bit better of a athlete, though, than Keon Coleman is.
So I'll start out by saying I think Denzel Boston is a better receiver than Keon Coleman. I don't think Washington, his route tree caused him to separate, whereas Keon Coleman just can't separate. Okay. Denzel Boston didn't have great separation, but also it wasn't a very the routes that they ran weren't pushing him to do that. They didn't put him in situations where it's like, hey, go juke out of his socks. Not that Denzel Boston's going to be that, but he wasn't a great separator because I don't think he was asked to. However, he still rose above that and was fantastic with the contested catch. One of the things I love about Denzel Boston is that he's fantastic whether you're passing or running. He is probably the best run blocking wide receiver in this class, in my opinion. And so he's someone that's absolutely going to be a benefit to you out there at that X position. Now, if he goes to the right scheme, I think that his kind of, and this is pretty far upside, is that he could be closer to a Davante Adams. Based on the size, speed combination, Davante Adams, great contested catch, but he was able to separate, but Davante Adams was asked to separate. Denzel Boston wasn't, and so it is a little bit of projection there. I don't see him as being that Keon Coleman clone, which I think gets thrown around too easily.
I'm not saying that, but listen, they are built.
It does, like, I see those similarities, but I don't think that he was asked to be that separator. Whereas Keon Coleman, you could ask him to separate and he wouldn't fucking know how to spell the word, let alone do it. So that's just me personally on the Denzel Boston.
Keon Coleman can't pull a fucking peanut butter and jelly sandwich apart. That's how little he can separate.
So we'll see with Denzel, and it's going to take him probably, in my opinion, it will take him out of the first round. But I think he'll be a pretty solid receiver in the NFL. And then Casey Concepcion, a little bit smaller guy, good athlete. What are your thoughts here on this dude?
He feels like a true slot. He's a really good route runner and sudden in and out of his breaks, but he's not going to necessarily wow you with his athleticism. Good after the catch, but doesn't possess game breaker speed. Reminds me a little bit of Zay Flowers, but not quite as athletic. Needs to improve in his run blocking, but as a capable receiver, although he's probably going to be typecast as that slot guy. I think that's just kind of where he's going to end up being. You get him on the move and you get him in motion. Like, this guy's going to be really good. He's going to be incredibly sudden. He's going to be killing motherfuckers on whip routes. Like, that's what this guy does, but it's not necessarily going to be a guy that is going to go for 1,000 yards, game breaker, going crazy, unless he's just force fed like a Edelman, Wes Welker type. And I don't know that he's going to go into that mode right away.
Yeah, I think high-end upside, like very high-end upside, if he were to hit, is a Percy Harvin. But his floor is probably closer to a Tavon Austin, and I lean a lot more towards that, where he's a lot more gadgety. You want to get him into open space and let him allow blocks and stuff to develop for him to be able to, find his way around them. I lean a lot more towards that's not going to work as well in the NFL as it should. And a drop issue. Like he definitely had a drop issue this last year in college. A guy who, if you bet on those traits and intangibles, that he could find his way into the first round. But I don't think that he's going to be develop into a number one receiver. I question a little bit, is he going to be a true number two? Like, he's going to be a little bit typecast for a reason in the NFL, as a little bit more gadgety or specific plays drawn up for him, rather than him being the receiver that goes and gets open and becomes a viable target.
All right. I think we have some similar concerns there with KC.
Yeah. All right. Any thoughts on Chris Bell or Jeremy Bernard?
I do have a Chris Bell right up. He's a big body receiver. That is
AJ Brown? You said AJ Brown?
I did not say AJ Brown, but I'm sure that I don't have that actually in here. So
it's talked about a lot. And I saw AJ Brown in him a little bit, but there's injury concerns with him, which worries me some.
Yeah, so he's recovering from the ACL tear. Good hands and an okay route runner, but definitely some more refinement with that, in my opinion. He does win over the top well and does a good job with late hands, man. When and will he be ready and at full strength? That's kind of the thing. He's starting to come back already, starting to put some workout stuff out there. And if he comes back and is healthy, this could be a guy that I feel like could also be a steal later on. Maybe not super top-end production like you're going to see out of a Jordyn Tyson, Carnell Tate, but another bigger receiver who I would like more than a Denzel Boston in the first round. So I like Chris Bell a lot.
Yeah, I'm a Chris Bell fan, and the AJ Brown comp seems like it's too easy, but I see a lot of that in him. AJ Brown went second round, 51st overall pick. I think that's right around where Chris Bell can go. And you're getting that because he was injured. Because if he hadn't been injured this year, I think that the way that he played, produced, could have easily put him up there in the first round. When you're talking about the height, weight, speed combo, the way that he plays, I do see a lot of those similarities to an AJ Brown, for better or worse. And so I think that he could end up coming back healthy, be a big steal for someone there in the second round, where everyone's going to be like, how the fuck did we get this guy in round two? We just are projecting that a little bit because of the injury stuff.
Speaking of AJ Brown, he was fucking released today, right?
Not that I saw. Not on ESPN.
All right. Well, maybe what I saw was fake. It's entirely possible. There is so much fake shit on the internet.
AJ Brown, I'm calling it now. He will be traded. It will be after the draft, after June 1st. Okay. Because it's a cost prohibitive.
Not been released. Yep. Not been released. Okay, so I think I got. Yeah.
All right, Jeremy Bernard. Anything on this guy?
I do not have a write-up on him. Listen, Alabama receivers typically turn out to work pretty well. You like the height, weight, speed, but I don't have an in-depth analysis of this one.
I like Jeremy Bernard quite a bit. I think that he is one of the more slept-on receivers in this class that is going to go in the second round, and he's not going to be a number one receiver on our team. He's going to be an extremely solid number two. I think Juwan Jennings is this guy's like perfect realm of what he's going to be in the NFL. A good possession receiver, high floor for him is where I got him. And because he doesn't do anything like super fantastic, he gets slept on. I feel like him and Elijah Surratt, I feel really similar about both of them.
Okay.
Good size, good possession receiver, decent route runners. They're going to get slept on because they don't have any of these stuff that makes you go like super big time wow on them. And his production fell off a little bit as his quarterback's production fell off. And so I think that hurt him a little bit. Speaking of Ty Simpson there, obviously towards the later end of the year. But a guy who I think is going to fall in the second round, and someone's going to be super happy because they're going to have a extremely solid number two for years.
All right.
Chris Brazzell.
Yeah.
Thoughts on this guy?
I do have some. Is anybody else afraid of a one-trick pony wide receiver from Tennessee like I am? I'm not saying that he's going to be that, but he ran a more limited route tree at Tennessee and wasn't asked to do a ton. He has all the testing and physical measurables you want, but feels like a boom or a bust option. Screams Raider and Darius Hayward-Bay. Now, friend of the show, Cam White, part of the OTC group, has broken down some of his film, says he's a much more polished route runner than people are giving him credit for. So I'm excited to kind of see. Like, smart people listen to smart people. Cam got Carnell Tate to come over to their space because Cam knows a lot about receivers. So it makes me maybe a little less worried. But listen, I've been burned by Tennessee receivers in the past, and this one scares the shit out of me. It feels so much like Darius Hayward-Bay.
He is, if you really, really break down into the statistics with him, is such an outlier at what he does. I don't remember if it was the left side or the right side, but he primarily played outside and only on one side of the field. Like 95% of his routes were on one side of the field. And he was a 9-ball guy. Like most of the time. Like crazy height, weight, speed, 6'5", 200, like awesome there. I think he's going to bust hard. I think someone's going to take him in the second round. There's been like little bits and pieces here of like, this guy could be a first rounder. I think he's going to bust hard. Pause. But he's got off the field concerns related to, I believe it was like a DUI that he like didn't show up for, or some sort of a moving violation that he didn't go to court for. There's been rumors of other kind of off the field stuff in general. Like you could get enamored with the thought of this guy could have like Randy Moss potential or something like that for being the deep ball guy that's got great hands and will go up and get it. But that's like what he does, and that's kind of it. And I don't see it in the NFL. I think that he's graded way too high, and like Darius Hayward-Bay is a great comp for him. Yeah, he scares me a lot.
Yeah, listen, man, people will rightfully be enamored with his size and all of the traits. It scares me, man.
I think he's going to go second, maybe third round if people like GMs feel a little bit closer to me about some of the scary things. I wouldn't touch him before the fourth round.
Ooh, fourth round. All right.
Me personally.
All right. I hear you. So where are we going next, brother? Because you got a couple of different guys in here. You got anything on Bryce Lance?
Yeah. So look, I'll say Skyler Bell here real quick. Extremely productive here for the Huskies. Not like I see Josh Downs in him. which I know you weren't a big Josh Downs fan coming out in the draft.
I wasn't.
I think that he's a solid receiver there for the Colts. I think I see a Josh Downs clone basically out of Skyler Bell, which you're going to be able to get in the second or third round and be really happy with. Bryce Lance, small school, uber productive. You got anything else on Bryce Lance? Like,
I mean, listen, he performed.
Brother of Trey Lance, by the way.
Yeah, performed well at Senior Bowl. Strong hands. Like, this is one of those guys where you worry about, is the production because he was at a smaller school? Happens over multiple years. Listen, and the touchdown production from a couple of years ago was absurd. So he's a red zone threat. He's got strong hands. Just the question is, was the competition good enough? I don't know. But there's another guy in this same fucking draft that you have the same questions about who I like more in Ted Hurst. Bryce Lance, good receiver. Give me Ted Hurst over Bryce Lance, though.
Yeah, Bryce Lance, I think that's the biggest question with him is the small school thing. Both him and his quarterback were offered more money in NIL to go other places. They committed to NDSU. They stayed at NDSU. I respect that for sure. And you're going to see a little bit of a drop off in their evaluations because they played at a smaller school. But I'm a fan of Bryce Lance. I think that he's going to be way better than his brother, but drafted way later than his brother was. Two guys here real quick before we get on to, well, a couple guys here before we get on to Ted Hurst. Antonio Williams, solid receiver. I think you'll get him in the third round. He's going to be a good pick. Elijah Surratt, I like him better than Omar Cooper. Long-term, like predictability in the NFL, lower ceiling, but a relatively high floor. Zachariah Branch, any thoughts on this fella here?
I have some very similar concerns that I had with KC Concepcion that would attach to Zachariah Branch, but probably even more so with Zachariah Branch. However, I think that the return capability with Branch kind of elevates him up a little bit. But I have, very, very similar concerns as KC Concepcion.
I do too, except for I liked the way that Branch popped on the tape more, how more important he was to his offense. And the fact that you're going to get him a lot later than Concepcion makes him feel perfect. Like, I have relatively similar grades on them, except for I'm getting Branch 2 rounds, 3 rounds later. Right. So I like that a lot. But we won't make you wait much longer. Ted Hurst here, fucking dude that I brought up to you when you were going out to combine. I was like, watch Ted Hurst. I love Ted Hurst. And then what did Ted Hurst do? He went out and fucking balled out.
Dude, fucking Ted Hurst was my favorite guy to watch. He was probably the best guy there, or easily one of the best guys there. I don't know how many best guys I can have because Kyle Luis was one of the best guys there. But Ted Hurst, man, he was fucking incredible. Watching him at Senior Bowl was a treat. He has the size, the speed, the jumping. He makes contested catches. He's a good route runner, especially at the top of the route. He has strong hands and is good about keeping the defender's hands off. The question is, how much is the step up in competition going to limit him? And from what I saw at the Senior Bowl, it won't fucking limit him at all. He was the best wide receiver at the Senior Bowl. And it wasn't really all that fucking close either. So I know that he's down here in the 90 range. I would take Ted Hurst at the ass end of the second round, beginning of the third. Yeah, that's how much I like this guy. He could be a second round receiver. He has wide receiver number 1 potential. The only reason that we're not talking about that is because he played at a small school. Everything else that you want, this man's got it.
Yeah, I brought up with Chris Brazel earlier, Randy Moss comps. I like the Randy Moss comp to Ted Hurst a little bit better, not in the pure speed, because Randy Moss was a freak, but like true X capability. I see a little bit of Plaxico Burris in him. I love Ted Hurst. I think he's awesome, and you're getting him at a value because of the small school stuff. He commonly gets taken 3rd, 4th round. I think that you are right that someone could bet on him late 2nd round, and within a year or two, he's developed into that true starting outside X receiver for you that you're going to feel real confident in. I love me some Ted Hurst.
Yeah, me too, brother. Ted Hurst was fucking awesome to watch. Malachi Fields was at the Senior Bowl as well. Performed okay throughout the week. Ted Hurst was far and away better.
Yeah, Malachi Fields is an interesting one because you look just super low production at Notre Dame, but Notre Dame wasn't a passing school. Man. That's the thing, is that I think his hands are better than what we saw at the Senior Bowl, but this is a lot more projection on a guy who does have a great frame at 6'4", 222.
Sure.
And that projects well, but I think that he's a little bit more of a project who also kind of rises up the draft boards a little bit, because I feel like there was a lot more gas in this guy up in Malachi Fields through the process where I just didn't see it as well. But I think that he's got some good foundational parts to him where he could develop into a solid receiver. Anyone else here that you want to talk about out of this wide receiver group?
Actually, I got one more guy, Josh Cameron. He's going to be down a little bit. Did we pass him already? He's out of Bela. Is definitely going to be in that draft. There you go. All right, Josh Cameron, another guy that I got to see at Senior Bowl. And I really liked what I saw from him there. He doesn't separate well, and he really didn't separate in Mobile either. But this guy was so good with late hands, and his hands are so strong that he just kept making catches around people and through contact. He is built like Debo, and I think he can actually play a similar type game. Needs to refine his route running, but I'm not really sure that he's ever going to be a great route runner. He's just really goddamn too big and blocky. He is very much a Debo Samuel type receiver. He caught everything that was thrown to him at Senior Bowl, and it made no fucking sense how. Like, he was literally grabbing balls around people. His hands are exceptional.
Pause.
Yeah, correct. You put this guy in motion and movement at the line and get the ball in his hands, good shit could happen, and he'll fight through and make tough catches. One of those guys doesn't separate, but contested catch rate, pretty good. I like Josh Cameron. Much, much later in the draft, but a guy that I would be interested in seeing what he kind of kick the tires on him, see if he can pull some of that Debo-like production out of him.
All righty. I got three more real small ones here.
Okay.
One of them right here at the top, Kevin Coleman Jr. I'm not going to say a whole lot because I don't want any sort of fire to start on him. Stephon Diggs. That's what I'm going to say about him. Guy that'll get 4th, 5th round and might have that Stephon Diggs potential. Jeff Caldwell, another guy that I like as a late round guy. Big body, not Stephon Diggs, small body. Tyron Montgomery,
love him.
Super raw, barely been playing football. A guy you're going to take late because of that. And then another one here who I will look up. Ooh, there we go. Oh. Have you heard of this fella?
Kaden Watjen?
It's pronounced Weejan.
Kaden
Watjen.
No, but I can read what it says there. He's a former sprinter, so he's real fast.
I don't know if you're going to get a whole lot of him out of being a receiver. Best fucking returner in college football. And this is a guy that will get in like the 6th or 7th round. So if you want a returner, white guy, fucking best returner in the draft. Explosive.
Iowa returners, white guys. They work apparently.
Yeah. Kaden Watjen, fast as fuck. Maybe you get some versatility out of him, but you're going to have to scheme stuff up. But in the 7th round, if you're able to get the best returner in the draft, you can take a gamble on him and get some special teams production. So a guy that I love there. Any other receivers that you want me to look at here, though, before we wrap this bad boy up?
I don't think so, man. That's all I got here.
All right. Shout out to Jacoby Lane. We didn't really talk about him. I like his height, weight, speed as well.
I've talked about Jacoby a lot in these mock drafts, which, by the way, new mock draft dropping directly after this episode ends. I had the draft for the Steelers this morning, and I did not fucking like it.
Wow, you took all their picks and traded them to the 7th round and then just drafted fucking no-name running backs. I like it.
Kickers and punters, baby. They're fully stocked.
Well, you can't be mean. You can't just be kickers and punters.
No.
Bunch of running backs.
I did a good job for the Steelers fans. Damn it. But to all of everybody else who tuned into this, thank you guys very much. Check out that mock draft dropping right after this. But time is the most valuable thing that you have. So anytime that you give some of it to us, we are forever grateful. Evo, hop in here for one last word, and then we will get out of here until I think Tuesday. We're going to have to figure out what we're going to talk about. All of the position groups are done. We're getting close to doing mock draft season.
Mock draft season.
Let's go.
I think that might be what we're going to be leaning towards there. Last word for the day. Hey, congrats to the Artemis crew for getting out there to the moon and heading back. Pretty fucking cool images coming back. I know we talked about that last time, but Godspeed to that crew. And I think it's just fucking really cool for humanity to have 3 Americans and 1 guy whose country is known for being second best at hockey. So congrats to you guys, and safe travels back to Earth.
Hell yeah, guys. Thank you very much. Once again, I'm Mike. That is Evo. This was Raw Dog Sports. We'll see you guys next week. See you.